Warehouse and operations as a career. I'm Marty back with you, and I'd like to thank you for checking back in with us today. And oh my goodness, we received a lot of feedback from last week's episode. It's exciting to see so many of us working our plan towards that next promotion and doing so well with our savings. It was great hearing that so many of us are actually putting more away than we discussed. Some listeners wrote that they were doubling up their dollar amounts this first half of the year. That'll just be that much more in the bank in week 52. This week, let's talk briefly about a few of the less known and operated pieces of equipment that we might find in the warehouse. Maybe lesser talked about tasks, but are really vital to our well-ran operations. An important task within the warehouse is, of course, keeping the floors clean. The warehouse is a dusty and grimy place. Boxes are dirty, pallets break, splinter, they lose nails. They may have been stored outside in the elements at some point, making them transport agents for no telling what. All the equipment that we use have load wheels and leave tracks everywhere. And that hydraulic oil. Maybe there's no leak, but somehow hydraulic oil is everywhere. I hate trying to wipe down my dashboard on a lift and find there's that fine mist of oil on it. Where's all that stuff coming from? And of course, we're going to have those occasional spills that'll have to be cleaned up immediately, or I hope they are. But as selectors and forklift drivers, do we really do a great job cleaning all that up? Probably not. And that's why we have the experts on our shift, our sanitation departments, and one of their tools is the floor scrubber. The seated industrial warehouse floor scrubber is an amazing piece of equipment. You'll see them in all sizes, units with 20-inch disc, 28-inch, 32, even 36-inch disc, and there's many different scrubber pads available for them also. The reservoir tanks on these smaller units may hold something like 16 gallons, 21 gallons. I've seen some of the smaller units with even 28 gallons of water or cleaning solution. And their recovery tanks can hold 11, 17, and 24 gallons. The larger units can be sweepers and scrubbers, having dual disc, sometimes even 3 discs. A debris tank or a debris bag for dust and dirt. They'll even pick up small pieces of wood and cardboard, and all those nails that we leave laying around. A unit like this may have a clean reservoir tank of close to 80 gallons, and a recovery tank that'll pick up or hold something like 65 gallons. Now these units are awesome. You can make a pass through your facility, sweep all the floor, and then go back through and scrub or clean the floors. There's a lot of different manufacturers and probably thousands of different models. I won't mention any specific brands, but you can search your browser using the words warehouse floor scrubber and get more results than you'd thought possible. And their prices can range between $7,000 and $81,000 or so. There's that much difference in their capabilities and, of course, all the bells and whistles that you can get. Now these are a blast to drive. They can turn on a dime. The larger units can be a bit tricky, but they're all really workhorses and will get the job done. I'll add when used properly to that sentence, I guess. When used properly, they'll certainly get the job done. I was fortunate enough to be trained on one of the larger units available at the time by probably one of the best sanitation managers that I've ever met. We were cleaning a warehouse with around 500,000 square foot of racked areas with a 65-foot deep dock and had several thousand feet of pedestrian traffic footage too. I really felt like I'd mastered the sweeping function, but the scrubbing and recovery part of it, I don't think I ever did it properly, at least not like he could. He'd scrub that warehouse and leave the floor practically dry after he ran back over it with a squeegee. I'd leave little lines of water on the floor every single pass. So how it works? Well, the sweeping is pretty straightforward. The sweeping disc rotates with an uplifting motion towards a vacuum that sucks the debris into a big recovery bin inside or on the back or maybe the side of the unit. How good a job you do is going to be determined on the speed at which you're running through your facility and how well you overlap your previous path. Pretty simple. But the scrubber function takes some real skill. It's one of those tasks you can't fake your way through it. You've either done it before or you're going to make a huge mess. I performed the task probably 1,000 times and did it correctly maybe once. It all starts with the pre-trip. Yes, every powered industrial unit should be given a pre-trip inspection. And with a sweeper scrubber, that pre-trip includes getting the unit ready to do its job. First, we need to make sure the debris bin is clean and properly seated to the vacuum hose. It has to be locked in place too. There's a lot of suction being applied to it when we're running through the warehouse. Next, we have to verify that the liquid recovery tank is clean, that it's empty and there's no leaks around the input hoses and vacuum attachment. A strong vacuum is going to be required to pick up all that solution that we'll be putting down on the floor. Next, we'll need to fill our clean reservoir tank. We'll usually be using some sort of cleaning solution. Depending on our industry, it could even be a strong chemical, so proper mixing or dilution is critical for getting the job done and protecting ourselves and others. Now, there's some really slick systems out there that can connect to our water source and premixes and measures the exact quantities or ratios between the solution and water as we're filling up our tank. I think here's a good place to remind everyone that this is a powered industrial truck and will fall under the 29 CFR 1910.178 standard. We all know not to ever operate, get on, or even touch a piece of powered warehouse equipment until we've been trained on it and understand all of its safety concerns. And that's good, solid advice for any type of machinery as well, right? Okay, we've pre-tripped our sweeper scrubber, filled it up with solution, and we're ready to get the job done. First, if the floor hasn't already been swept, we'll run through the warehouse and sweep it. Sweeping is pretty easy. Just lay out your path and make sure you overlap by an inch or two on each pass. My overlay had to be more like 8 to 10 inches. I couldn't keep the unit moving in a straight line. A pro can literally make things work with an inch overlay. It's all about keeping the truck running straight and true. We need to use some common sense. We can't try and run over something too large to vacuum up. Small shards of pallets, nails, and small pieces of cardboard can be vacuumed, but for the larger pieces, we'll have to climb down and pick them up to avoid clogging up our hoses or even tearing up the unit. So now we have a dust and debris-free floor so we can start cleaning it. We'll have a solution release level, usually with 3 or 4 different preset stages that'll be determined by how fast we're moving through the warehouse and how strong our vacuum pressure is set. We'll want to bring the unit to a complete stop, lower our squeegee bar, turn on the vacuum unit, engage the solution release, and start our slow pace throughout the warehouse. When we're really good at it, we'll leave no water streaks when we turn, and when we're really good at it, there won't even be a pool of water left when we raise our squeegee to turn around or back up to reset our path. It's very important to never back up with our squeegee down. It'll rip it off the unit. I learned that the hard way, and those squeegee bars are very expensive. There can be multiple squeegee bars too. The unit that I learned on had 2 in the back and 1 on the right side. It helped when making wide left turns, or it helped those that knew what they were doing. I always left lines. I never could really master running these things. As an order selector and forklift driver, I've always thought our sanitation departments were those unsung heroes. Their work is hard, and they help us keep our productivity by keeping our work areas and aisles clean so that we can get those products pulled and shipped. There are so many skilled positions within sanitation. I never considered it as a general labor position. It is definitely a great position to get our foot in the door of a company that we'd like to work for too. Another piece of equipment every warehouse probably has, and a few of us may know where it's actually kept though, is the paint striper. Usually our safety department keeps up with it, although I've seen it kept in the back of the sanitation area before too, maybe because of the aerosol paint cans. They need to be segregated and kept in a vault locker for safety reasons, so sometimes they're kept by the professionals, those used to following the rules regarding chemicals and any dangerous stuff. Now here's another piece of machinery that I never mastered. Had that same problem of not being able to keep a straight line. The striper is used for painting the lines for our pedestrian walkways and outlining any keep-away zones. By looking at it, you would think anyone could accomplish this task, but I assure you it's harder than it looks. I've seen the powered units and then the push units. Most warehouses I visit own a small push unit to use inside the building for walkways and directional markings, and pay a striping company to bring out the larger powered units to paint their parking lots and dock lines. The small units are fairly simple. You load a regular aerosol paint can into the slot on the lower end of the unit. The paint nozzle will have a couple of different settings probably, from just a small line to about 5 inches wide. A roller wheel will be positioned to the right of the sprayer to help keep us straight, and we'll have a trigger on our handle for us to disperse paint as we're pushing the unit over our pattern or chalk marks. It's always a good idea to lay out or mark on the floor where we want to place the paint. I've seen men paint perfect walkways without using any guides. I'd call them professionals. In my experience, it's usually a safety or sanitation person that's going to be asked to go paint a walkway. I was an order selector the first time I was introduced to a striper unit. I didn't use any chalk lines or draw out a path, hence my suggestion to do so. Cleaning up that paint and edging out the overspray wasn't fun. Now I draw it out every time. Well, there's a little on 2 pieces of equipment in the building that we see setting over there in the corner from time to time. I've used them both, but never actually had the job title or worked in the department that was responsible for using them. I just always asked my manager if I could be taught to use them, and then I filled in when they needed, some help or to be used, and whenever I was asked to do so. As you know, I believe we should know a little about every task that touches ours, and letting our bosses know that we want to learn. More knowledge can never hurt. Talking about knowledge and experiences, I'm wanting to take a turret truck for a test drive. I mean, really bad. I'm going to find me one to drive. If you're following our Facebook or Twitter feeds, where you can find us using that little @ WHSEANDOPS, if you're an operator, share your experience with us. You can send us an email to host@warehouseandoperationsasacareer.com also, and I'll share it with the group. If you're driving one, let us know what you think of them. Until next week, be safe, and let's each learn something about a task that works beside us. And of course, do it safely.